She grew up in a time in the South when that phrase carried a stigma. Daughter of a preacher, wrapped in the holy cloth of religion from birth and sheltered from the outside world. She spent all of her time in the sacred walls of the tabernacle looking outward. Her father, head of the flock, having all the time for his people but leaving little time for his family, still had the heart of his baby girl. But the girl who grew up holy would eventually fall. The weight of the biblical pressure, all too much to stand upright. So she falls. She falls. And she falls. Right into the hands of a sinner. A handsome man with a devilish grin and a chiseled body was right there to catch her. From the very introduction, the feeling of seduction, all too new to her, is overwhelming, like the smell of your mother's kitchen after being at school and finally returning home. The scent was new and inviting and familiar, yet tempting just the same. The Reverend, no stranger to the street and smart to the realities of the world, tried to warn his precious gift of the troubles that lie within the lies of handsome men. But his sermon fell on deaf ears. Unable to separate father from preacher, he was preaching to the choir. She'd heard all she needed to hear from the house of the Lord. She wanted to explore unknowns, but the explorations in the dark most certainly lead us into brick walls and terrors we know not. But she had his courageous spirit, and although he hated it, he also loved her for it. A piece of him within. Young love is often foolish, irrational, immature, and without wisdom. But it is also the very best love that life has to offer. Not restricted by the seriousness of adulthood, young love only knows love. And it consumes the eye of the beholder with its purity and power. She was a young girl in love, doing the things that young girls in love do. He was a young man just trying to find his way in the world, making promises he did not know how to keep. But they pushed on, believing that love would be enough, but we know this story. We know it never is. The anniversaries were no longer celebrations of love, but reminders that they were still trapped together. Every time he said, "I love you," the words were like weights, making her stay in a relationship that wasn't right. She couldn't tell her father that he was right, that she had failed at love. So she carried the weight of his meritless "I love yous" and unfulfilled promises, moving forward, ever forward, not just for herself, but for the sake of her child. And eventually, her feet worn from the weights, she did the only thing she could do. She set herself free. In relationships, moving forward, the scars are always there. If you look deep enough, and deep within her loving smile and brown eyes, you can still almost see the young girl who loved so boldly. But she was buried deep within. She's not safe in the adult world. There is no place for such a love. And as she walked along the beach with her father, her young children playing around, she told her father of her adventures in love, the good, the bad, the beginning, and the end. He hugged his daughter and simply whispered in her ear, "Such is life."